Welcome back to the Dynasty Citadel. I guess my name's Terry. But today we are going to get into top receivers of the 2025 class. I was thinking of doing a top 5 list, but then I'm thinking I probably should do more, just to be honest with you. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm on NFL Draft Buzz right now. We have 3,000 ads that are popping up. Don't really worry about that. But as you see their top 3 receivers. I don't necessarily agree. I'm going to mix both this. I'm going to use PFF metrics as well and kind of get into who I feel are the best receivers in this class just for their rookie season. And probably might do another one about this tomorrow, actually, for the running backs. I can do tight ends. It's not as many for the tight ends, though. Quarterbacks, not as many as the quarterbacks, honestly. So it might just be wide receivers, running backs. I guess you have a few tight ends. We'll see. But so right here we have Travis Hunter, we have Ted McMillan, we have Matthew Golden. Okay. Travis is in a good spot. I think he'll be. Let's just talk about Travis a little bit, and we can actually click on the profile since they have him number 1. Travis is in a good situation. He doesn't have to be necessarily the number 1 guy. Jacksonville has BTJ, but that means he'll just be free in some certain schemes, and he'll just be wide open. Well, I won't say wide open, but he just won't have as much pressure on him because everybody's going to be selling out with BTJ because you don't want him to beat you deep. So Travis should be able to win over the middle, but then Travis can also beat you deep. Which I wonder if it's like the Bengals situation with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, but they put Jamar Chase in the slot a lot more this season. Then have T just run outside and then put either Yoshavas. They wanted Burton, but Burton did nothing his rookie season because he was head case. So it'll be interesting to see how Jacksonville runs his offense, especially they have Britton Strange in the tight end slot. I have to look at the other receivers. I can't remember if Diami Brown went there. For whatever reason, I feel like I have a feeling he went there. But, okay, let's go to Travis Hunter. Let's just look at what they have on this scouting profile. Let's see. They got him at 6'1", 185. He's probably around that range. 4.4 speed, good. You don't want him to be that lightweight. He was a top prospect. We do know that. The crazy thing, it does give all the other wide receivers. And this wouldn't even be my list, to be honest with you, but we'll see. We know he's from Florida. I'm say Jackson State, followed Prime, played with Shadur. We know the story. The thing is he's going to be the number 1 receiver in the class. A lot of scouts, when I read what I see, these ads are messing with me, so I'm gonna go straight to PFF. What I see when I read this information, right, is they think he's going to play both. And that's why he wasn't necessarily considered number 1, especially for like dynasty analysts or fantasy analysts, just say that. But if he plays primarily wide receiver, he's definitely a number 1 guy. In camp, we've seen the videos. He's been the number 1 guy. I think he's going, not number 1, I'm sorry. He is going on majority on the receiver side of things. And so the question becomes, if he plays, because the question was, is he going to play 70% of snaps as wide receiver? If he does play 70% of the snaps, then he should be in that top tier category. And I'm interested to see what Keep Trade Cut has him at, because and they're about to do something for me. Who we got? Saquon, C.J. Stroud, or Jackson Smith and Jigba. Let's do a quick exercise on this. It is a super flex league. We're going to have to. Okay. Yeah, because we're going to have to cut Saquon, believe it or not. And the true question is, do we keep Jackson Smith and Jigba? Do we think he'll have a major breakout this year? Without DK, without Tyler Lockett, but he does have Cooper Kupp. Or do we think C.J. Stroud gets right because he has Jaden Higgins, who we'll talk about later, Nico Collins, he has Jalen Noel, Christian Kirk, Tank Dell won't be back, Dalton Schultz still at tight end, but I've been hearing a lot about what's his name? Stover. K. Stover. So I think I would keep Stroud just because it's super flex. And I know I can get some trade value back for it, more so than Jackson Smith and Jigba. So I think that's what I would put it at. And Saquon, if it was just a regular redraft, he would be number one, in my opinion. But with him being a 28-year-old running back coming off all those touches, I'm not sure when he's going to break down, just being honest with you. Okay. I'm interested to see where Travis Hunter, because I believe on Keep Trade Cut, he is the number one wide receiver as well. But he's wide receiver 14 right now on Keep Trade Cut. And I probably should have just went, can I do Dynasty rankings? And the crazy thing is I did this before, and I do the same thing every time. Act like I don't know where I'm going. Okay, I don't need picks this time. Okay, so if he's wide receiver 14, he's behind Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Marvin Harrison, Ladd. Okay, and then we start getting to the upper echelon for real. Can he be better his rookie year than somebody like A.J. Brown? I don't think so. Not his rookie year. I don't think so anyway. If he does, then he's going to be considered a top 5 wide receiver set. But someone like Marvin Harrison, I think he could be better than Njigba. I think he can. Because I'm a little bit leery about that offense. The offensive line is never really held up in Seattle. I guess we'll see this year. But it's really never held up. And Sam Darnold hates pressure. So if he's getting pressure up the gaps, it's going to be bad. But the thing is, Njigba plays in the slot. But do you put him on the outside now because you now have Cooper Kupp, which means he might not necessarily get as many targets as he did last year. But Kupp gets hurt a ton, so you don't know. You don't know how this situation is going to line up. For me, he's going to be ahead of Garrett Wilson. He already is. Tet, I'll talk about Tet later. I think Tet's a little bit better than we think. He's definitely going to be that number one. T. Higgins, yes. I will put him over T. Higgins. Just as far as dynasty aspect, I guess it's two different conversations. When you talk about redraft, you talk about dynasty. When you really start looking at these number one guys in redraft, do I put somebody like a T. Higgins over Brian Thomas when I know the Bengals are going to have a better offense? And points per game, I think T. Higgins was number 3 or number 4 last year. That's where the conversations gets a little tricky. Rome Odunze, one of my favorite wide receivers, is down here, but Travis Hunter should be ahead of him. As of now, anyway. But I think, according to what everybody says, and let's go to PFF real quick, and they have Travis as a cornerback, and that's why he's not popping up. So I wonder if his cornerback stats or his receptions. Oh, they have his receptions up here now. All right, nice. Okay. But no, this is a defensive. And there's other stats I go to. I don't want to do it right this second, to be honest with you. But I'm pretty sure he rated out pretty high. I know he rated out high as a receiver. But the question is, in my opinion, is he going to be better than Tet? Because Tet is the unquestioned number one receiver in Carolina. To me, I have no doubt in my mind that Tet's going to have a good year this year. And even if he doesn't have a great year, let's just say like 1,200 yards, I'm pretty sure he'll get 1,000 yards this year. Just him being the X receiver, Bryce actually having a big target to throw to. Leggett, his second year, he should be better. Coker was good. He just didn't really get too much playing time. He had a few injuries as well after he did get good. You still have Thielen on the team. So you have actually a pretty decent wide receiver core with Tet. But Tet is definitely going to be leading the way. I think he has a lot more skill, a lot more nimble than people think he is, especially for a 6'4", 6'5" receiver. And he's been good his past 2 years in college. If we come here, we can see 1,300, almost 1,400 yards his sophomore year, and these are like true sophomore, true junior year numbers. And people talk about dominator rating. I think I last looked it up. Ted's dominator rating was 44%. That's what people like it above 30. So Ted has everything, and he even played in the slot a little bit, not much, but showed he can play from the slot. And when I evaluate receivers, and you'll notice here in a second when I talk about Matthew Golden a little bit, but when I evaluate receivers, I like to see if they can beat man coverage. I like to see their receiving grade, the yards per route run, their contested catch. I like to kind of put it all in a little bag. The drops seem to, it's not a sticky stat, to be honest with you. And I can see now that I'm going to have to go to my PFF data source that I was trying not to go to. But I'm gonna have to go to it, because when I talk about these things a little bit, it kind of puts things more in perspective when you show numbers behind it. But it also helps know who the better receiver is. Let's do it by position. Receiver report. I only want to look at receivers, and I think for Travis I have to do other offense to get him in here. Let's just look at the 2025 draft class. What I do a minimum targets, 20%, boom, and then our receivers start popping up. But before I do that, let's stay with Tet right now. All right, so staying with Tet, he wins against man, which I already knew, but for whatever reason, people were wondering if he could beat man coverage, and I thought it was a foregone conclusion, especially how he's playing. But I think it's because he's a bigger receiver. They see the contested catches. I want to say he had either 13 or something crazy. Yeah, he had 18 contested catches, which could be bad quarterback play, because you see him camping. He's definitely winning certain routes and whatnot. But, it's early in camp, so you really can't take that into play. But according to PFF, he's beating man coverage pretty handedly, almost at 90. And if you heard my previous videos, when you get to the 90 on the PFF marker trail, that thing starts turning blue, meaning elite numbers. So he's elite. And I couldn't imagine, because according to PFF, his overall grade in 2023 was better than it was this year. So if we're saying that Tet was actually a better receiver last year, and I think Fafita was a better quarterback in 2023 as well, that's probably why his numbers were better. So you never know. And I just realized now that Tet played one less game than he did last in 2023. So honestly, he probably would have put up near 1,400 yards. He really would have. And the same with the catches. It would have been about the same. He still got the same amount of targets. But Tet was the offense. He had 8 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns, and 8. He even had 8 his freshman year. I'm just realizing this. He just I can't say he didn't play enough. He definitely played enough. He just wasn't as good as and he was a freshman. Still had over 700 yards his freshman year. So I think Tet is, and people compare him to Mike Evans. Mike Evans is a bit he's heavier than Tet. He's more of T. Higgins, because T. Higgins, I want to say, if I remember right, T. Higgins is 6'4". We can actually, does it tell me height in here? Oh, it does. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure T. Higgins is 6'4". Yeah, he's 6'4". Let's click on it. 6'4", he's 220 now. And I'm pretty sure he didn't come in the league at 220. So that's basically, that's who Tet is. And people think T. Higgins can be a number one receiver. He just plays behind a better receiver in Jamar Chase right now. So I'm pretty sure that's who, when we start looking at these guys, he's honestly probably T. Higgins who got a chance, which is actually pretty funny to say. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure Tet is going to be a really good receiver in the NFL as a number one receiver. Even with Jalen Coker, who I think is really good, even with Thielen, who has been defying the age cliff, and even Leggett, who I think is actually going to have a solid year this year. So I think Tet's going to have a good year. Now, getting back to Travis, for me personally, Travis is my number 2 guy. I think Tet is going to have some all-pro seasons. I'm pretty sure I forgot his name already. But I'm pretty sure Travis Hunter is going to have some seasons like that as well. It's just going to be tough. It depends, because right now it's trying to determine, is he the Jamar Chase in this situation, or is he the T. Higgins of this situation? and somehow I played an ad, but I don't think anybody can hear it. But hold on, I gotta mute this site. So that's going to be the issue there with him, because if I'm Trevor Lawrence, who in return, Mac Jones was really the one who unlocked BTJ. But on Trevor Lawrence, I did see what Mac Jones did with BTJ, and so I should, especially I've already had a year to grow with him. It just depends on, because I'm not sure how well Lawrence deals with pressure. And honestly, I'm not sure how much any quarterback deals with pressure, to be honest with you. But some deal with it better than others. They get the ball out quicker. But if you get the ball out quicker, you're throwing to the guys, usually over the middle, those slot guys. It just depends. This is funny. My mom is over here. My mom just told me my son is telling people to do push-ups at McDonald's. This is actually pretty funny. That is hilarious. But somebody like Travis, he has the talent, though. And if you think about just talent for talent-wise, right? He's more talented than BTJ, especially coming out of high school, going into college. It's not even. I honestly don't think it's close, just from a talent perspective. So, do we think that wins out? The problem is if Travis really decides that he wants to play both sides of the ball, because then there's going to be certain snaps he's not going to be in the game. But hopefully, Cohen is like, hey, man, you're going to have to play wide receiver. We'll get you in some cornerback snaps, maybe. But we need offense on this team. And we need guys that are dynamic, which you are. You're a really good receiver. So we'll see. And then I guess his weight as well, but his weight didn't affect him in college. Now, he didn't play SEC level competition, but everybody doesn't play. Like some of your best players didn't play SEC level competition. Like Cooper Kupp didn't. Now, when you start talking about injuries, then maybe that's something. But yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, because like your big schools, right? You get receivers from everywhere. Now, of course, Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson now. Amon-Ra St. Brown played at USC. I'm just trying to go to Nico. Yeah, he played in Michigan, so that doesn't work. Who else? Actually, instead of guessing, let's just look. Go back. Let's go back to wide receivers. Puka definitely didn't play. What did he play at BYU? Well, he started at Washington, BYU, CeeDee Lamb, Oklahoma, Drake London, USC, Nico, we already said Michigan, Ladd, Georgia, so big school, Ohio State, big school, Ohio State, Colorado, what was this, South Carolina? Oh, no, this one's South Carolina. This is Mississippi State. No, this is Ole Miss. This has to be Ole Miss, right? Hold on. A.J. Brown College. Let's see. His college team was Ole Miss, right? Yeah, okay. All right. I think I was messing up the colors. Okay. And then technically Tet hasn't really played yet. Well, you have Rashee Rice. He didn't come from a big school. So, but looking at this list, a lot of your receivers did come from, your top receivers anyway, did come from some pretty good schools. When I'm looking at the schools, Zay Flowers, Boston College. It's ACC, that's still ACC though. Texas, DK was with A.J. Brown. Terry McLaurin, Ohio State, Pickens, Georgia. Man, you start really looking at your top guys, you're like, okay. DJ Moore, Maryland. Ricky Pearsall, Florida, that's still SEC. Yeah, okay. Man, that might be a video in itself, trying to figure out how many receivers, top receivers anyway, come from small schools. Jeez. Looking at that, Tyreek would have came from a smaller school. I think Devontae Adams would have, but they're older now. So as far as Dynasty, they're not really up there on the charts like that. So nobody's really checking for them. Okay, let's go to the number 3 guy. It is Matthew Golden. Okay. Matthew Golden's the one who ran the 4.29. They have him as their third receiver. And you probably can tell by the way I'm talking that he's definitely not mine. But he may be good for Green Bay, but they have so many receivers there. It's tough for me to believe first off, it's tough for me to believe that he's going to be that good. And we're about to start getting into some numbers now. It's hard for me to believe that he's going to be that good. And then he's really never had the opportunity to shine as a true number one receiver. Because Isaiah Bond, I think if he doesn't get hurt, probably stays as that guy. But he did get hurt. He got his opportunity to shine for those, I think it was 3 or 4 games. But, and still in turn, let me look. Because I want to say maybe this year is the year he got over 1,000 yards. But I'm not even sure if he did that. Yeah, he was right under. So, and I'm not going to cut the man off for 13, missing by 13 yards. But when you actually start looking at the games played, Matthew Golden played 16 games this year. Yeah, when we just looked at Tet, he played 12 games and 13 games and had 1,300 yards and almost 1,400 yards. So that's a big difference when you start looking at these numbers. He had 9 touchdowns, which is cool. People say that game tape is the reason behind it, but a lot of times the stats will tell you and let you know. Against man coverage, he was not good. This is basically saying average. And for me, when I look at this, I like it to be at 80. You know, sometimes I'll compromise depending on the receiving grade and whatnot. But I definitely like the receiving grade to be at 80 for my top guys. Now, saying as a number 2 receiver, cool, that's great. Okay, that is great. But as a number 1 guy, this is not something that I'm looking for when I look at this. And now sometimes this is what causes me to miss. I think BTJ last year was a reason that I missed. But what I've learned, just in a 1-year span, what I've learned is if there's another great player on the team and the numbers look like this, I kind of got to take it out. I got to put it in a little bit more context, to be honest with you. But in Matthew Golden's case, there's not another great wide receiver on his team. So when I'm looking at this, his contested catch percentage is really good. He had 11 of them. But PFF's saying he's not good against man coverage, which gives me cause for concern. Because somebody who runs a 4.29 and not good against man coverage, it's eye-opening. That's surprising. Now, somebody like Xavier Worthy, this profile kind of reminds me of that because his yards per run was not good. I want to say his contested catch rate was decent, but I don't know if it was good. Not like Matthew Golden's. Matthew Golden's 61% is really good, actually. Receiving grade for Xavier Worthy and grade versus man, I don't think they were good. I think they were okay. I want to say Xavier Worthy's best statistical season, like analytically, was his freshman year. And then I look at Matthew Golden because just listening to other people's podcasts, he played. Who was he playing with? Tank Dell. Played with Tank Dell at first. And then now with Texas, played with Isaiah Bond, who didn't get drafted, and that's because he had other issues off the field. But I look at these numbers, and now one thing I will say is when I do look at the numbers, I like that he did play out wide. That for me, that's a good sign in the NFL when a receiver is able to play out wide, and if they can win, and that's what gives me cause a pause because I'm not sure if he won on the outside. Now, what we're going to do right now, because I actually just thought of it and never thought to think about this. In those games that Matthew Golden did go have good games, what were his grades? Well, and actually, I probably don't even need to look because I'm looking at it. I didn't realize they had him right, or I did realize, but I forgot. Had it right here. So really, against Arizona State, that was his best game on PFF-wise. Florida... And it's really weird, to be honest with you, how PFF ranks it because sometimes you could have like 70s across the board and then still be ranked like 80. 59 I know is low. But Georgia 70, which is decent. Same thing with Ohio State. Okay, those are like Ohio State actually is pretty good, 74. Because I want to say it translates better than what it looks like on here. I'll say that. And 88 just means he had an amazing game. So let's do this. I'm going to duplicate this because I need to go by player. Yeah, it's a lot of work that goes into this, guys, for people that don't know. But let's look at Matthew Golden. I would like to see his season. We can do it on, let's do it based on receiving. Okay. So this game, he goes off, right? He has 149, 1 touchdown, 7 for 10. He had 10 targets, but he has an amazing game this game. But for whatever reason, the game above that, statistically, he has a better game. Now, he doesn't get a touchdown, but he has a better game receiving-wise. 162, 8 catches, 12 targets, right? But PFF rates him a lot lower. Now, it's saying, obviously, I see right here drops, right? So he must have dropped the ball. How many times did he drop the ball this game, if they're doing that? He dropped the ball twice in that game, which moved his PFF rank down. Catch rate wasn't good. So is that something he struggled with drops? No. He had 4. And they came latter part of the season, but I wouldn't necessarily say he struggles with them. Because let's go back to our big board. He had 4 drops on here. 6.5%. They're saying that's average. But I'm just trying to look at this from a game perspective, because this should have been a great game too, but I guess those drops messed up that percentage, which in turn would have moved up this PFF grade a good bit, because I'm assuming this game would have been in the 80s as well. Against Clemson, it looks like he had a drop that game too. And then, was that Kentucky? And then Kentucky had a drop. Okay. So, all right, so these games potentially could have been better, but this Clemson game wasn't good to start off with. He only had 4 targets this game, 3 targets. Now, the thing is, we're not really watching the games right now. We're just doing this from an analytical perspective. So there could have been reasons behind this. But when you look at some of this, it's like he wasn't really a big target guy. I'm assuming Isaiah Bond gets hurt around this time, around the Arkansas game, if I had to take a guess. And because he really doesn't get the targets. And then against Georgia, he goes berserk. Same thing with Arizona State. And I'm saying does great. But you start looking at it. It's like, is he really going to be a number 1 guy for a team's offense? Yeah, you don't know. Yeah, you look at these numbers, I'm like, he was honestly pedestrian for most of the year until, let's just say, the end of the year, the last 3 games, not even 4. The last 3 games. Yeah, didn't have 100-yard, only had 2 100-yard games on the season. Now, there were some big games, though. They were clutch games, which is probably what stood out in scouts' minds. But you always have those one-hit wonders. And the thing is, when you're looking at these stats and try to analyze it, this is what would give me cause. It would just make me stop. And honestly, that's why Matthew Golden hasn't been higher on my boards. I'm sure Matthew Golden in real life is a really good receiver. But as far as us playing Dynasty fantasy football, I don't know if he's going to be able to get open enough. And when you start looking at the targets in that team with Jaden Reed, you have Dontavian Wicks, you have Romeo Dobbs, you have Tucker Kraft, and then you have Josh Jacobs who's going to be getting the ball. No telling if Marshawn Lloyd actually stays healthy, because he actually can catch. So there's a lot of options. Now, if he's going to be beating the top off of defenders and be like an MVS for Green Bay back in the day, that's cool. But that means he's going to be better in the best ball format than he is going to be in actually a dynasty startup league. So honestly, he scares me. His profile, it scares me a ton, because I'm not sure what to do with this guy. Matthew Golden, 429, that is great. But will he be a wide receiver too? I'm talking about as far as just fantasy rankings. Can he get there? Because people are treating it like he's for sure the wide receiver 1 of this team. I don't see that right now. Yeah, I don't see it. Analytically, I do not see it. And my thing is sometimes about these guys is it's not like he had been performing and then he came on the big stage and you realize, oh, this guy is good. Like a Cam Cam Scatterbo, you realize, you look at his stats and his numbers, you're like, oh, he's been performing actually for some years. And now we realize, oh, he's good because he got to the playoff. I look at Golden and I'm like, oh, your name got out there. And before you ran the 4.29, I don't think anybody was really hunting you like that. So I'm really interested what Green Bay, who doesn't take offensive players, what they seen in him that made them decide to, hey, we need to take a shot on this guy. So I'm very interested how it play out. If I'm wrong, I'll come back on here and tell you I'm wrong. BTJ, I keep saying I was wrong about BTJ because I'm just looking at, and actually instead of just talking about, and I keep duplicating tabs. I have so many tabs open right now. But let's go to BTJ real quick, just so I can give you an idea of what I'm talking about when I'm saying. Oh, do I have quarterback still open? Okay, let's go straight to wide receivers. Okay. So Brian Thomas, and they had him rated high on here as well. But when I was looking at BTJ's stats, and it should populate here in a second, you can see his grade versus man was bad. His receiving grade is decent, but like I was telling you earlier, I like 80. His contested catch rate is good. His yards per out run 2.6, good. It's not great or elite, but it's good. It's higher than Golden's. The grade versus man is not, though. Drop rate's about the same. Receiving grade, honestly, is about the same. Contested catch rate's a little lower than Golden's, but okay. All right. He still had, in the 13 games, he had 1,100 yards, 17 yards per reception. That's about the same as Golden. He had 17 touchdowns, which is amazing because he's over one touchdown a game. And he played out wide. I like all those things. Actually, Golden does most of these things. But I like contested catches, 7. Okay? So he actually wasn't a contested catch merchant. Deep yards, he was first in that. I want to say Golden maybe 30th. 30th, which, your 30th out of how many receivers is actually probably pretty good when we're actually looking at this. But the thing about BTJ, which I keep harping on now, he played with Malik Neighbors. That's the issue. And let's look at some of BTJ's games because it's probably honestly going to make me change my stance on a few things as well. Because BTJ, I looked purely analytically, right? And I was like, man, they keep saying he's good. He's 6'4", ran a 4.3, 4.32, whatever he ran. But everything's saying analytically he's not good. I didn't take into account, though, that Malik Neighbors was on the team getting most of probably the good targets because Malik Neighbors was playing out the slot and playing out wide, which I think is a very good sign that I need to start actually looking at because before Tank Dell got hurt, Tank Dell did the same thing as well. And then, you see him merge with C.J. Stroud, but the injuries, Tank Dell's probably not coming back the same, to be honest with you. When I start looking at receivers, I'm going to start looking at that because slot guys, I'm starting to tend them down a little bit lower. I know the NFL is trending towards slot guys, but I'm starting to take them down lower. And for everybody that say Ladd's a slot guy, actually, what we'll do, we'll look at this here in a second. Ladd played mostly out wide in college, so he's not a slot guy. In the NFL, they moved him to the slot because he's quick and he can catch. And he's a tough guy. So that's why he's in the slot, but he's not a slot guy at all. All right. Looking at BTJ, starts off the year in 2023, 142-yard game, has 133, 124, 122, 150, 103. So it's no real, when you start looking at the games and like, when did BTJ break out? Broke out the first game of the season. And this is his senior season. He probably had better games his sophomore and his freshman year. Well, maybe his sophomore year. I doubt his freshman year. But you can see that, BTJ is actually a dominant guy. His grade might not necessarily be that good, but he's had some really good games in here. And you're looking at this like, look at this 3-touchdown game, 124 for 3 touchdowns against Ole Miss. Probably his best game. If we're looking at it, he had 150 and 2 touchdowns, and then analytically they have it against Army, but I don't think really anybody's checking for Army. But still, even if nobody's checking for Army, he still had some good games. And we go back here to Matthew Golden. He has one great game analytically, one great game that we like to see, okay? But when we actually start breaking his games down, he has a game against Vanderbilt with 9 yards in here. And you never know what happened. He might have got hurt. You never know what truly happened in this game. Even though it looks like he played all these snaps and ran all the routes. So, this one, I'm not sure what to do with this one. I'll just say that. I think Matthew Golden is probably going to be a better real life wide receiver than he is going to be a Dynasty fantasy football player. And we'll keep it there and let us move on. Their number 4 player, Luther Burden. Okay. So, Luther Burden, 6 foot 206, junior, sophomore season, dominant sophomore season. Junior season, a lot left to be desired. And that's the reason I believe he fell to the second round. Because we don't know what Luther Burden we're going to get. We don't know if we're getting the good Luther Burden. We don't know if we're going to get a bad Luther Burden. We do not know. Let's instead of doing this, let's go back to our PFF. And what is this? Is this BTJ? Okay, let's move BTJ because who was the guy I was just talking about? Because I was supposed to show BTJ and somebody else. I forgot. It's okay. All right, Luther Burden. Let's go ahead and pull his PFF's rankings and stuff up. With Luther, you can see, again, when we start getting towards that blue tier in the PFF, he had an 88.8 overall grade with PFF his sophomore year. Junior year, 77.9. What's that? Good, not great or anything like that, but it's good, solid. Now, the thing I personally do not like is seeing that he played a majority. Is not splitting snaps. It wasn't like he had 100 snaps out wide. He had 261 snaps in the slot and 36 snaps out wide. His sophomore year is his great year. 316 snaps in the slot, 55 out wide. I do not like that. That scares me so much. Just because I know he's a tough receiver. I know that he had a great year. But for him not to be able to win, I'm not sure if he can win one-on-one coverage outside. And him being with the Bears, the good thing is he'll probably play in the slot, I think. But with him being injured in real life right now and Ben Johnson calling him out, not sure how much he's going to play his rookie year. It's reminding me of Burton right now. And that would scare me off of Luther Burton too. But he still has 61 catches. He only had 670 yards. His sophomore year, he had 1,200 yards, and he was being placed as the number 1 receiver at first because of what he did, his numbers. Me back then, I still had Tet just because he was the big receiver and he played out wide. When I was realizing Luther played in the slot, that's what caused me to come down on Luther. Yards per route run, 2.3 is okay. I think the threshold we're looking for is 2.5, 2.6, but 2.3, we take it because the year prior, he was actually, I want to say it was like 3.1 or something like that. It was Malik Neighbors, and then it was Luther Burden. And I think that's why everybody was so high on him. Now, his receiving grade is good. His grade versus man coverage, it is good. But the thing I also liked about him, because I was doing a little bit of other research when I was starting looking at people like Puka, Malik Neighbors, they won against zone, and they did really well. His sophomore year, Luther Burden, I think, was only behind. It was either him, it could have been 1 or 2 situation. But it was Malik Neighbors, Luther Burden, or it was Luther Burden, Malik Neighbors. It was close like that. And then the reason I mention that is because when you look at somebody like Puka in college, he has good grade. I think he had a decent grade versus man, but His grade versus zone was elite. It was him and Rashee Rice who stood out. And it was like eye-opening. It's like looking like, oh, well, this makes sense why they were good. They actually know how to play football. So, but again, both of those receivers played out wide. Yeah, so that's where honestly the issue starts coming in for me. When you start looking at this, I'm like, yeah, man, you take a shot on him, but and I'm not sure what exactly happened this year. I know his quarterback wasn't good, but Ted's quarterback wasn't necessarily good this year, and he still put up numbers. Luther Burden fell off the face of the earth. Now, people cite, from what I hear, that he has some character issues and things like that, and that might been the reason. But I don't know if even with the character issues, if you're a good receiver, you're still going to be a good receiver. I don't care if you're pouting. I don't care if you're upset. You're going to find a way to go get the ball. And it seems like Luther Burden could not separate it, or there's a bigger issue that he might not be as good as we think he is. Now, the thing is, I believe Luther was a 5-star recruit. And that's not the end-all be-all, because Puka probably was a 2 or 3-star recruit. But for him not to get or come close to what he did the year before, I know probably coverages were bracketing him and whatnot, that it scares me. It's like another Matthew Golden situation, which scares me. And I have Travis Hunter up, and we'll talk about we can go into Travis Hunter's stats here in just a second. But man, let's go to Luther while I'm on the subject of Luther Burden. So Luther in 2024, okay. Man, okay, so does he have a 100-yard game? He has one 100-yard game. And did he have drops? No. Oh, he fumbled. Okay. I was trying to figure out why his grade went down so low on his 100-yard game with a touchdown. But he fumbled. Okay. Yeah, he just wasn't efficient. And this game is what scared me. To have 3 yards, the 3 catches for 3 yards against Alabama. Now, I'm pretty sure they had to do more with his quarterback than him, but that scared me all in itself. Mississippi State, he had a good game. UMass, he had a good game. Texas A&M, he had a good game. Okay. He's only had one 100-yard game this year? Okay, let's compare this to his 2023 season, because that should be a lot better. Yeah, his 2023 season, sophomore year, like he's putting up numbers against everybody. From Middle Tennessee, Kansas State, Memphis. Memphis, he had 177 yards. Vandy, 140. LSU, 149. Florida, 158. Even 97 against South Carolina. It's a totally different situation when you're looking at Luther Burden here. This Luther Burden would have got drafted in the first round. For sure. I don't think, no hesitation, I'm pretty sure this Luther Burden gets drafted in the first round. This Luther Burden right here got drafted in the second round because of his 2023 season. This Luther Burden, on his own merit, I don't think enters the NFL draft, because he's not getting drafted to the 5th round. Now, the reason I think people are so high on him, not the contested catches, because it's only 6 out of 11. Yards per run was good, but I thought it was yards after catch. Yeah, the yards after catch, 6.1. Now, what I need to find out is yards like 6.1, tied for 143rd. So that's not necessarily the best stat to say he's good at the yards after catch. Let's see. Let's check his 2023 season to check the yards after catch. His yards after catch was 8.4. I'm pretty sure that was good. Oh, here goes yards per run, 3.29. That's what I'm saying. This Luther Burden would have got drafted first round, whether he plays slot receiver or not. And then he would have got drafted in turn in rookie drafts for Dynasty. He would have got drafted first round. Just because he's this Luther Burden, honestly, let's do this. If his junior season was his sophomore season, and this sophomore season was his junior season, he would have been drafted first round easily. And I think, and that's what scares me too, because it's like the progression, then the regression. Because you see he progressed so much, and then you see a major dip. And it's like, what is the cause for this? Like, if he had somewhat of a dip, it's like, okay, we get it. Yeah, I'm saying he has more eyes on him. They have more tape on him. Okay, it makes sense. Like, if he, like, yards per run, let's say it was at 2.8. Okay, so he dipped a little bit. 2.3 is not bad, but he almost dipped almost a full point on the yards per route run. And he's already playing out the slot. And so we'll have to see how Ben Johnson uses him in the offense, because it's not like he's a small guy, 5'11", 208. I think some sites have him 6 foot 210 or 209. Not a small guy, but one, he got to have his head on straight, and then two, they got to know he's dependable, because nobody is throwing that slot receiver that ball if they're not dependable, because that's an easy pick right there. And I think that's why Lad's doing so well, because he can actually catch. So we'll see. But again, so Matthew Golden, Luther Burden, yeah, they're not as high on my board as this site, NFL Draft Buzz. Number 5, we have Emeka Egbuka, 6'1", 202, drafted by the Bucks. If Chris Godwin is hurt, Emeka, I'm telling you right now, if Chris Godwin does not start the season, he will not get that job back. He will not get the job back. One, he was playing with who all did Emeka play with? He might have been on the Garrett Wilson team. I'm not even sure. But Emeka played with Marvin Harrison. He's played with Jeremiah Smith. Who's the other guy? Because I keep saying Cam Coleman from Alabama. Carnell Tate's on the team. Jackson Smith and Jigba was on the team. And if Garrett Wilson's on the team, they mean Chris Olave was on that team. So he's played with a lot of receivers. And so my thing about Ohio receivers, and that's why I think Marvin Harris, I'm pretty sure Marvin Harris is going to be good. I know it's taking a little bit of time. And honestly, if you look at his numbers for a rookie, it's actually pretty decent, to be honest with you. 880 and 8. Yeah, all you got to do is improve. I'm pretty sure he'll get 1,010. Pooh, hey, I would say now, don't let him get 1,1310. You got top 12 receiver now, easily. But when talking about Emeka, to me, I think he's going to fit into that category. And I know it might be a shot in the dark to say this. He's going to fit in that BTJ category. I'm not saying he's going to be as good as BTJ, because Mike Evans is still on that team. Chris Godwin's on that team. But when we start looking at numbers and analytics, Emeka Egbuka is okay. It's not great. It's not a great profile. It's okay. Let's look. 82 receiving grade, 80 against man. Drop rate is good. Contested catch rate is good. Yards per out run is good. It's at the 2.5 threshold. 1,000 yards this season. He was hurt a portion of this season. Played 16 games, got 1,000 yards. Not necessarily the best, but got his 1,000. Played primarily in the slot. I don't like that, but I do understand that he had to play a role just because of the receivers that were on his team. I do understand that. So that's why I think it's a different context when I talk about Emeka Egbuka. Just because he's played with great receivers. The other two did not. Luther Burden did not play with a great receiver on his team. Theo Weiss honestly looked better than Egbuka this year. Not Egbuka, Luther Burden this year. Yeah, Theo Weiss looked better than him. And then with Matthew Golden, Isaiah Bond honestly was number one receiver until he got hurt. Yeah. So the issue here for me is that he primarily played the slot. But in the other context, why I'm saying the BTJ, and maybe this is what I'll call my analysis, the BTJ analysis, since that's how I messed up. And my BTJ theory will be when a receiver has good numbers or is ranked high, especially on PFF, but when you look at him analytically and it doesn't look the greatest, go ahead and throw it out because he played with great receivers. I'm gonna have to make a theory because the thing is, especially these, and then also Ohio State theory. These Ohio State receivers that are good come in the NFL and just seem to dominate. Because even somebody like Chris Olave, he gets hurt, but when you look at his numbers, they're good. Garrett Wilson hasn't had a quarterback, but he still puts up decent numbers. Who else? Yeah, Marvin Harrison let's just be honest, he had a good rookie year. Jeremiah Smith is going to come in. Right now, he's people overall, if you play in Debbie leagues, number one player. Nobody's over him right now. No quarterback. Arch Manning's not over him. K. Klubnik is not over him. Lenore Sellers isn't over him. DJ Lagway is not over him. Nobody's over Jeremiah Smith. So my BTJ rule is going to be, if you play with a great receiver and your analytics are good but not great, go ahead and throw him out because that receiver is going to be good. And I think Emeka Egbuka is actually going to be good. He can catch. Yards per route run is good. Contested catch rate is good. Had 13 contested catches. He still can win versus man, which I like a ton that he can win a versus man. And I just think he's just a solid, not even, I want to say, and the thing is, I'm not even trying to be disrespectful, but when I say solid receiver, I just mean I know he's going to do his job out there. I don't have to worry about it. And I think that was the thing with Luther. I had to worry about it. He had one game over 100 yards. That's cool. He's not the top target on the team. I think let's just say he was 2-3 because Carnell Tate, I'm pretty sure they was trying to get him involved in that offense. And then you already had a great run game with Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. So you had a great run game. And then you have a dominant X receiver in Jeremiah Smith. You have Carnell Tate, who was solid. I'm not going to act like he had a great season, but he was solid. And then you have Egbuka, who came off of an injury and is basically the elder statesman in the room. Still just 22. Probably start the season. Let's see, start the season still be at 22, but he'll be turning 23. But still, that's young enough for a senior now. When you actually start putting things in perspective, it's actually young for a senior. So I think Egbuka's going to be good, and I think he's going to be fine, especially in Tampa Bay. You have Baker Mayfield. You have a good quarterback. We know he can play the slot. I can stamp it and pretty much say I'm pretty sure he can play the outside. I'm pretty sure if he had to play the outside of Ohio State, he could. Same thing. So when you look at somebody like Jackson Smith and Jigba's profile, and this is why I left the BTJ number up, because just in case we had to run over here real quick. When you look at somebody like Jackson Smith and Jigba, right? I think it was at 22 or 23. Jameson Williams. It was the year after. But when you look at it, and he got hurt, and I know he didn't really play in 2022, but primarily slot in his sophomore season. 367 snaps on the slot. Didn't really really didn't get out there his freshman year. But played primarily slot receiver. But what team did he play for? He played Ohio State. He had those killers on his team. He had people that were good on his team. So I think, and that's why I'm saying that might be my rule, because he had other great receivers, and so he had to play in the slot. Now he was able to put numbers in the slot because I want to say that's probably the Olave and Garrett Wilson team. I'm pretty sure, because if we go that year back, let's go a year back. And yep, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave. Yep, that would have been a year. So both of them, so all three of them on the team, you couldn't guard them. Basically, that's what's happening. You couldn't guard that team. So when I look at Egbuka, I'm thinking, and his numbers wasn't as good as Jackson Smith and Jigba, but they don't have to be. I'm pretty certain Igbuka is going to be good. He played with other great receivers, so he really didn't get all the targets that he was supposed to get as a 5-star prospect as he was. But he stayed in there, stayed in lab, and was very good for this team. Reason why they won championship. Let's say, of course, Jeremiah Smith, top receiver, who is going to be the top reason people are trading 26 first to get 27 first right now, especially in one of my leagues. And I have a couple 27 first myself and on my rebuilding team. So I'm just holding off, just seeing what happens. But I'm pretty sure Mecca is going to be good. My BTJ rule, he's the one that is going to apply to. Now, the question becomes, is he good year one? I'm not sure. It depends on how Chris Godwin shows up. But I'm telling you now, if Chris Godwin has to go on the PUP, or if he's not the same coming out, and Emeka gets that wide receiver 2 role, Chris Godwin's not getting it back. I can tell you that right now. He's not getting it back. And now the question becomes, I think for Emeka as well, does he start the season? Let's just say Chris Godwin is healthy and the times they are in 3 wide receiver sets. Does he play outside or does he play in the slot? I think that's a question. I think, honestly, it won't truly matter. I think he'll be good at both. But the reason I ask is for fantasy reasons, because you play out the slot, you're going to get more targets. You're closer to the quarterback. Now, yards after catch, seems like he's average yards after catch. Nothing crazy. Missed tackle force, nothing crazy. Contested catch, pretty good. So I think he's just a professional receiver, to be honest with you. I'm not sure. I can't remember if he ran the 40 or not, but I'm pretty sure if he did, it's anywhere between 4.45 and 4.45. So, yeah, Emeka Igbuka there. And I said I wasn't going to do a top 5 receivers, but I have something I have to do here in a few minutes, so I'm going to have to do a top 5 receiver list. But what I'll try to do, I'll try to come back and finish this up. And I have my list here, so we'll start off the next episode with one of my favorite receivers. Actually, they both coming up next right after each other, Jaden Higgins and Trey Harris. So both of those guys will be next up. And I have, if you don't know, I have very high praise for both of those receivers. I think both of them are going to be great fits in their offense, and we'll talk about it more when I get back online. Until next time, and thank you for the people that do watch.